Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 471 for the 9th of June for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. And after the emotional damage from yesterday, the Ukrainians went back on their full-fledged offensive today, and we're going to go through the details and one by one in the SITREP. And today I'm going to try something very different. I'm going to slow down the pace, the way how I talk, because I used to talk very fast, and for the SITREP, because I thought this is how YouTube should be done, or at least what I thought I supposed to do for YouTube, because people have short attention span and are very slow, and it's very stressful actually for me. So I'm gonna slow down the pace, make it more relaxed for myself as well, so not so painful. Then maybe it's easier for you guys who don't like my accent or not used to my accent, to be able to catch what I'm talking about. And I just have to say, I haven't even go all Singaporean in terms of my accent. So let's start out with Putin. So Putin has announced have a statement on the Ukrainian offensive. He has acknowledged that the Ukrainian offensive has begun. So should I zoom in a bit? Maybe you can see better now. So according to him, he said that due to the use of strategic reserves of the armed forces of Ukraine, which in my own words I call them the offensive brigades that was set up by Ukraine and the NATO side. So in total there is up to 12 brigades, offensive brigades, and at least 2 to 4 of them is now currently involved in the offensive. So the president point out that that there is high intensity fighting, but so far the attempts at the counteroffensive has failed. And he said that all counteroffensive attempts made so far have failed. And however, the offensive potential of the troops of the Kiev regime is still preserved. And I have to say this is true. As I mentioned, there is a 12 offensive brigades, and then only at max 4 of them is currently in the offensive in the multiple fronts, from Avdiivka, Bakhmut, and the two on the 2 sides, at the Velyka Novosilka side and the Orikhiv side. So there's at most 4 brigades. There's another 8 more, so which means that the Ukrainians can power on the offensive or even expand it or not up the intensity. They still have the potential to do it. Whether they can do it tentatively, I don't think they can put in all 12, because the Abrams tanks are not ready, the Leopard 1 tanks are not ready, and that's why Zaluzhny have disappeared, because likely because due to internal politics. I don't want to go too much into that because that's very conspiracical, because this is a SITREP, we'll stick to the sources. And so they say that there is significant losses on the Ukrainian side, according to the president of Russia, saying that it exceeds the classic indicators. So this exceeds the classical indicators. Why the hell Patrick Lancaster repeat the words? Just quote him, man. And however, Putin say that he will not reproduce the numbers, but they are impressive. So because this is operational secret, so he cannot reveal what they know, because that will actually reveal their intelligence abilities. So Putin is pretty happy so far after 4 days of fighting, and so Russia have struck the Myrhorod air base. So Myrhorod air base is this one. This is where the Ukrainian Air Force actually operates out from. And according to information from pro-Russian source Ryba, they say that the Air Force has been the air base has been struck. The runway and equipment on the site has been damaged. Warehouse with fuel and lubricant has caught fire. However, the air base is still operational, as they take note of planes continue to take off from the air base and continue to operate in the Kharkiv direction, and to support the Ukrainian operations. Over at the Kherson Front. In the southern front, we do not have any operations. There is still no artillery shellings on both sides. They are shelling each other. I read that from pro-Russian sources, the Russian side has already evacuated 6,000 to 8,000 people, civilians from the flooding zone. Believe it if you want to, if it's meaningful to you. Over at Babine, there's a MiG-25, a Ukrainian MiG-25 shot down again in this location again. I'm not sure why the Ukrainian Air Force continue to have a MiG-25. This is the second MiG-25 getting shot down in this area over here. So Babine, there might be something going on over here, or maybe the Air Force is trying to trying to soften the defenses over this region so that they can actually do some landing in this area here. And I think this is also quite a decent place to land, because there is only they can actually build a strong bridgehead over here by choking up this area here. So if they can defend this area here, then they can actually build up and actually push through. So yeah, maybe this is a good place. Moving on into the Zaporizhzhia Front, and as you can see, the map looks very different. I have added the entire set of front lines. I have already indicated this in the Telegram, Twitter, and I believe I put it into the YouTube as well, YouTube community posting. I've mentioned that this is based on Australian Institute's mapping. It's not comprehensive, like and it's like this may not be everything, because they use satellite imaging. It's not very high res to try to find where are all these entrenchments on the Russian side within the Zaporizhzhia region. It's not for the entire of Ukraine. I have, based on the information, and mapped it in. The icons are all smaller ones. Then there is massive long ones, which I indicate with lines, because there's no way I can put them in icon, which we probably cannot really understand. And it's not supposed to be highly accurate in the sense that the entire shape looks exactly the same. This is just a simplified version so that we can have a strategic sense of the the defenses of the Russians over at the Zaporizhzhia region. And as you can see, it's extremely tight, especially in this region here. In this region here is extremely heavy in terms of the entrenchment, and the Ukrainians are currently attacking in this direction. And the defenses go all the way to Melitopol and along the entire highway over here. They are not expecting Ukrainian to attack in a big way in this way, so we can clearly see from the entrenchment. And we can also see that the fighting within the Velyka Novosilka region, the Ukrainians have not even reached the actual line of defense yet. And over at the Orikhiv sector, there is only one trench line that was taken over by the Ukrainians, and allegedly even this trench line was abandoned. You'll probably see the information in a while. So before I continue on the offensive, we have a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Zaporizhzhia, and this is a MiG-29. So MiG-29 is actually usually used for air-to-air. And then the Russian Defense Ministry reported airstrike at Omainik, airstrike at Preobrazhenka, airstrike at Huaypole, shelling reported at Orikhiv, south of Orikhiv. South of Orikhiv is actually by the heavy flamethrower system, the TOS-1A, and these are, so the Russians actually strike all these locations. These are all major towns where the Ukrainians actually have gathering of forces, and probably there is still a lot of reserve forces in this area here that is able to do further reinforcement and offensive towards the Russian positions. And there is this report of shelling, right? There is also a geolocation of a TOS-1A getting destroyed. This is reported by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, saying that the Russian TOS-1A has been destroyed. And they have a video footage of it. And maybe this is the one that struck this location. so it might be related. The distance between these two is 14 kilometers, a little bit far. So maybe this is not the one, because what I understand is around 10 kilometers, the range. Anyway, further up, we go to the Kamyanske sector first. This is Kamyanske. So at the Kamyanske sector, the Russians actually counterattack at Lukove. So the Ukrainians were trying to dig in Lukove. Previously, the Ukrainians actually managed to capture around, maybe not so much, no, around like this. They managed to capture this area here, and they are trying to dig in, but the Russians counterattacked, and now the reconnaissance group from the Russian side called in an artillery strike on this Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainians actually quickly run away from Lukove, and because they run away, the Russians took over the positions, and now has been reportedly captured. So the capture is reported by SITREP Maps and also Remlin 21. SITREP Maps is a neutral source, and Remlin 21 is a pro-Russian source. So the Russians have managed to recover, and they have controlled over this area here. This is the settlement. The settlement is actually here. The Ukrainians currently still holding positions south of Svatove, and moving on, we have fight. So that's all from the Kamyanske front. This is not where the main fighting is. This is maybe just some kind of a diversion, or maybe taking advantage of the mass over on the south of Orikhiv. The Ukrainians try to take over this area here. But as you can see, this is crazy. The amount of entrenchment around south of Kamyanske is just crazy. Over at the Orikhiv sector. So this is Orikhiv. At the Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainians attack in multiple locations. They attack towards the south of Novosilka, towards Nesteryanka. They attack at near Novodanilivka, which is exactly south of Orikhiv. They have also attacked at Novopokrovka. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. The previous information is from Ryba. And there is also fighting reported south of Malatomashka. It's also reported by the Russian Defense Ministry, as well as by Remlin 21, the pro-Russian source. And there is fighting reported northeast of Robotine. So this information is coming from Ryba, the pro-Russian source. They say that this happened early in the morning, and the Ukrainians attacked, but it did not work out as well. And there is some kind of breakthrough from the Ukrainians. SITREP Maps and Remlin 21 both reported the Ukrainians actually managed to push south. And SITREP Maps actually mapped it in this way. And according to Remlin 21, how they managed to go this far is because the Ukrainians tried their well and tested but not always successful lightning attack. Basically, fast-moving vehicles driving south, and they managed to go all the way to this point. However, and this basically overruns Russian positions further up north. However, because they are driving just blitz down, they hit mines, and reportedly, according to this pro-Russian source, all 10 vehicles drive through the minefield, and the vehicles are all dead. And as a result, we actually have information coming from Remlin 21 saying that there is radio intercepts of the Ukrainians requesting evacuations and trying to run away from their position north of Robotine. And they were then struck by kamikaze drones and artillery and mortar as they try to escape further up north after this failed blitz attempt to go to Robotine. I mean the whether this makes sense or not, I will cover this more in the operational report. I don't want to go too much into that, because if not, this video is going to become 1 hour long. There is information of from pro-Russian sources, Remlin 21, saying that the Ukrainians are remotely mining supply routes of the Russian side with the use of the MAS system. Basically, it's the German M270, or it's like the track version of HIMARS. So using intelligence from NATO satellites imaging. So there is some kind of a remote mining in the south. I'm not sure exactly where, as they did not mention. But yeah, that's how the HIMARS and the Mars system, the M270 is used. They can do remote mining, they can do cluster bombing. Yeah, it's a bit different from a Grad launcher, put it that way. And I believe I covered everything. The information northeast of Robertine, let me check. They say that there is the 47 Mechanized Brigade with Leopard 2 and Bradleys try to attack between Robertine and Verbove. So the Ukrainians were trying to attack in this direction here, and then they were able to push some Russian positions in the first position, and then however they got shelled by Russian artillery. So that basically ended and forced the attack to be abandoned after 1 Leopard tank and 3 Bradleys were destroyed. So there were this rush down, they got bombarded. Yeah, there is no clear indication where the defense line is. Probably there are some trenches, small trenches around the forest line. It's not the major entrenchments of the Russian forces. As I mentioned, the Ukrainians hardly even reached the first line of defense previously, and I think today is exactly the same thing. I would not say they even reached the line of defense along the road here. So yeah, tough luck. So the fighting at Novosilka is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. They say it's a battalion supported with tanks, and they say that there's an attack over toward this town called Yablunevo or Yablunev, but I cannot find this location on the map, so I have no idea how to map this location. So all the Yablunev that I can find is nowhere close to the front line. And moving on, I think that's all from the fighting over at the Orikhiv sector. Moving into the Velyka Novosilka sector, the Ukrainians have reattempted their attack over at this sector. There's fighting reported at Levatny, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, near Novosilka, at Nekushny, as well as at Zaporizhzhia. The fighting was in because this report was a bit late because there's way too much intel. By the time I more or less almost map finished, the Russian noon report appeared. So I've also mapped in the noon report appearing today, which likely reports on what happened yesterday. So the fighting at Zaporizhzhia seems to be continuing, as well as at Nekushny. However, the Novosilka and Levatny one was not mentioned in the latest report. Let me see. Oh, there's Levatny. So I forgot to map it in. So let's map it in now. So Levatny. So fighting reported at Levatny. What happened to the? Yeah, you see, the sometimes when I try to save, the information just kind of like messed up. So yeah, so the Ukrainians attack in this region continues with the attack towards Nekushny, Zaporizhzhia, to south towards Rivnopil and Levatny. The fighting, the Ukrainians seems to not dare to go for Novosilka anymore after the disaster. So far, there's no mention of report of fighting over here. The fighting at this sector is not mentioned by pro-Russian sources. The pro-Russian sources are only focusing on the Orikhiv sector where the fiercest fighting is happening. And that's all from the Zaporizhzhia Front. Moving into the Donetsk Front, still within the Velyka Novosilka sector, the video footage of the Ukrainian offensive at Novodonetsk has appeared. I have shared this in the DPA's Telegram channel. So if you are interested, do check the description below and look for the Telegram channel. You can actually follow me there, and you can actually see the footage. It's pretty long. It's I think 4 or 5 minutes long, and it's basically shows the Ukrainians attacking, not attacking, like more like driving down to Novodonetsk. They deployed over on the western part of Novodonetsk, and then they got shelled. And yeah, basically that's about it. The advance is covered by Mi-8 helicopters, which is very interesting. So the helicopter is flying super low. So you do check out the footage. I don't want to show war footages on YouTube. The main problem is demonetization. YouTube is very inconsistent in terms of what they decide to to sometimes they happy they will just demonetize, sometimes they will allow it. So it really depends. So I don't want to take my chances. So anyway, you can also just see it on the Telegram channel. Perhaps I will talk about it in the commander's briefing. Let me think about it. Over at the Voleda region, nothing is happening over at the Voleda. And moving at the Marinka. Marinka is interesting. The Ukrainians actually counterattack in the northern part of Marinka. Information is coming from the Russian Defense Ministry saying that the northern edge of Marinka was attacked by the Ukrainians. By the Ukrainians. They 110th mechanized, 59 motorized infantry, and 79 airborne brigades of the Ukrainian forces. So probably is the airborne brigades of the Ukrainian forces, because there's three units and 4 locations. Yeah, it's unclear who is actually fighting over here. But I don't really track the units, so it's not very important anyway. The Russians are reportedly still attacking within Marinka. The fighting is reportedly Chechens. The Chechens are in charge of the Marinka region for the Russians. So it looks like this. Yeah, that's all from the Marinka. So far, no mentions of any breakthrough. It's interesting how the Chechens did not manage to capture of the entire of Marinka, which suggests that the Ukrainians actually do reinforcement over at Marinka to make sure that the town do not fall. And moving on into the Avdiivka Front. At the Avdiivka Front, the Ukrainians continue. They actually relaunched the counter-offensive over at the Avdiivka Front, and this time round it's a bit bigger. Fighting is reported at Pervomayske. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. So interesting that the Russian Defense Ministry is now talking about Ukrainian offensive. Not a very typical thing that they will do. And the attack also happens in the north of Avdiivka. Fighting is reported at Krasnohorivka and in the Kreminna region. So as you can see, Kreminna, Krasnohorivka, and Pervomayske. So however, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry continues to say the Russians are attacking at Zheveny, as well as at the Novosilka. So yeah, I'm not too sure how to interpret this, because I don't think the Russians are attacking because the Russians are currently bracing for Ukrainian offensive. So yeah. Anyway, moving on from the Avdiivka Front, we go into the New York Front. So we have nothing at the New York Front, and moving into the Bakhmut Front. At the Bakhmut Front, the Ukrainians continue their offensive over at the Bakhmut. So far, the offensive is mainly on the. So I mentioned in the operational report or the quick update is a double pincer. So far they have abandoned the bigger pincer at this moment. They are focusing on the smaller pincer in this way. So fighting is reported near Avdiivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, also towards Klishchiivka. Deep State UA continue their very vague way of describing. They only say heavy fighting occurring certain places. Didn't mention who is actually attacking, which I feel that is pretty lame. I feel that Deep State UA should just be forthcoming a bit. But no, because of the Russian Defense Ministry statements, I can tell that it's actually the Ukrainians are attacking, because on the Ukrainian offensive, the Russian side have no reasons to lie about this. So further up north in the northern flank, the Ukrainians attack in multiple locations. They're attacking on Dubovo-Vasilivka, Bodanivka, Yakhidne, and Bakhivka. Information is coming from Russian Defense Ministry. Bakhivka is by Deep State UA. They mentioned because they said fighting, but because the Russian Defense Ministry reported fighting at Yakhidne, there is no reasons for Bakhivka to be a Russian offensive. It's unlikely to be the case. At Bodanivka, the Russian Defense Ministry's yoke group of forces reported the Ukrainians are attacking. They said that they managed to repel an attack near here, and however, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that the Russians are the one attacking at Bodanivka. So So interpret the way, any way you want it. So the Ukrainians are continuing their offensive over at the Bakhmut Front, and currently situation remains to be quite tense for the Russian side. So far there is no more breakthroughs as far as I can tell. And moving on from the Bakhmut Front, we go into the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, there is fighting reported at Versailles. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they said that the Russians are attacking Versailles. Yeah, so, and then over at Bilohorivka, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry said that the Russians are attacking Bilohorivka. However, the Russian Defense Ministry only mentioned shelling of Bilohorivka. The shelling also extends to Kharkovivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry on their report yesterday. And that's all from the. There's also a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Platonivka. MiG-29 is a fighter jet, air-to-air fighter jet. And that's all from the Siversk Front. Moving into the Kreminna Front, at the Kreminna Front, there's shelling reported within the Serebranske forestry. This is probably related to the Center Group of Forces report of Ukrainians trying to attack within the Serebranske forestry on both days, 9th and the 10th, and these attacks did not are not fulfilled because the Russians actually shelled them. So the Ukrainian offensive did not manage to even reach the Russian lines in this attempted attack. So it might be the same report why the Russian Defense Ministry is reporting the shelling at Serebranske forestry. Fighting is reported at Dibrova on the 9th and on the 10th. Allegedly is the Ukrainian probing attacks over at Dibrova. So far, it's just reconnaissance, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. There's an attempted offensive over at Torske as well. Also, got stopped by the Russian artillery and airstrikes. And there is shelling being reported at Yampolivka on the 9th and on the 10th. Same thing happened at the Nevsky on the 9th and on the 10th. And then there is attempted attack towards Novosilka, reported by the Center Group of Forces. Similarly, the attack did not work out as they got shelled by Russian airstrikes and artillery. So that's all from the Kreminna Front, with the Ukrainians attempting to launch attacks in multiple sectors. However, it did not really work out as the Russians managed to discover them before they can actually reach the front lines. Moving on, I just want to add, given that the amount of shelling at Nevsky and Yampolivka, I believe there must be some kind of a serious accumulation of Ukrainian forces in this area here. So yeah, this is something interesting, I would say. And moving on into the Svatove Front. At the Svatove Front, we have probing attacks at Novosilka on the 9th and on the 10th. And then the Russian Defense Ministry shelled Berestove, Stemakivka, as well as Andreevka. Shelling. So the Ukrainians were trying to probe as usual at Novosilka, shelling at Berestove, Stemakivka, and Andreevka. That's all from the Svatove Front. And moving into the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, we have Ukrainian probing attacks in multiple areas here. There's at Timkovka, at Vyshana, as well as at Sinkivka. So information is coming from the Russian Defense Ministry, where the Ukrainians were attempting to probe all these different directions or attack these directions. The Russian Defense Ministry similarly reported shelling at Olyanske, Vyshana, Sinkivka, west of Liman Pershi at Moshanove, and also at Novolimsk. Novolimsk is this salient that the Russians seems to have some kind of bridgehead over on the western part of the Oskil River. This information is still not exactly verified by many other sources. This first reported by Ryba. So it would be very curious if the Ukrainians did not launch any attack to push them out. So that makes me doubt whether the Russians actually crossed the river and captured the town. By the way, we shall continue to monitor and see how this goes. And that's all from the Kupyansk Front. There's nothing across the border at Kharkiv. The border regions only have shelling cross-border shellings. And I think, yeah, that's it. That's all for the summary for the day of 471 for the 9th of June. So for those that are have not subscribed to this channel, you must subscribe, because the channel, the DPA War channel, have just reached 35,000. You know, finally we reached 35,000 subscribers, but the growth is still very slow. It's going to take a very long time before we can reach a decent target of 100,000. So, you know, do press the subscribe button, because this helps, you know, new viewers to discover DPA, or it helps to, you know, get the videos recommended to existing, you know, viewers of DPA that may not be watching, because maybe they are busy with other stuff, and then the video to be recommended needs to be, you know, encouraged by shares, by likes, and, you know, by subscription numbers. You know, subscription numbers is very important. So anyway, do let me know what do you think about this slower and more relaxed way of presenting the SITREP, because usually I talk very fast. So this time around I try to, you know, take my time to explain things. So let me know what you think in the description below, and I will see you in the next update.